Hey, what's up everybody, BDF44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so of course, as I said, if you watched the last video, I started to segue into a different point and just decided I wanted to make a different video out of it. So this is that. Dame posted something on Instagram saying that basically loyalty has an expiration date. And, you know, it's about time that he started letting people know that. That's me paraphrasing, but that's exactly what I took from it. I think he's ready to move on from Portland. And I don't think he felt that way just about a week and a half ago. I think yesterday's events with Portland was enough for Dame. Here's the problem. I'll tell you exactly what the problem is. Obviously, KD not coming there or choosing there is the problem. He kind of put himself out there by putting KD and him next to each other on a picture wearing Blazer uniforms. And I just thought that was not a Dame-like thing. I really thought that was not Dame-like, because Dame is not the kind of dude, it seemed to me, that's going to ask or even request somebody to come play with him. He's always been very proud in that regard. But I think we're reaching a point where the clock is starting to really mess with him as it pertains to father time. He's in his 30s now. He doesn't have time to be wasting. He doesn't have time to be any of that. I think he sees his career and realizes he doesn't have a championship. And he's been loyal, and it's not necessarily led to success. And while he was waiting for the team to get their books right with their financial situation, they've done that, but the moves that they've made haven't exactly satisfied him. Now, I thought the Jeremy Grant trade was good. I thought that was a good move. I thought the other moves that they made leading up to this ultimately made sense, even though they depleted themselves of a hell of a lot of talent. They needed to free up that cap space and get out from under that luxury tax. They've done that. But I think Dame was expecting them to go all in and start making huge moves because of the ability to be free of that luxury tax. And what they did was lock up Nurkic 4 years at 60, which is, you know, basically a little much for Nurkic in the production that he's been providing Portland. I think it would have been wise to move on from him 2 years ago when he was claiming he wanted to get up out of there. He wasn't happy 2 years ago. And they never traded him, and then they re-signed him. And I'm like, you got to understand, Nurkic's happiness is contingent upon y'all winning. He made that clear 2 seasons ago. And now you've added him to a situation where he's on a contract that could deter that. Could literally deter that. And so while I think Nurkic is a solid average center, I think he's average, to be honest, even though he has huge, massive play ability. The problem is his injury issues, and ultimately his style of play just makes it so that I think that contract is a real bad value for the Blazers. When you have Dame on tab looking to win now, and the best thing you can do is get him a good defender and then re-up the same center he's been losing with the whole time. Maybe you draft a young Shaedon Sharpe. You should have traded Shaedon Sharpe for a win-now piece. You should have took that $60 million you gave to Nurkic and coupled that and brought him another exciting piece to play with. You got all these different things that could be done. You got Brogdon going to Boston for little to nothing. Like, these are pieces. You got DeJounte Murray going to Atlanta. You got Gobert going to the Timberwolves, even though that's not the package you want. You want what they got back, not Gobert. But that's not the point. The point is you see teams making big moves, whether they're any good or bad. Even the Lakers picking up players to help themselves, trying to trade for Kyrie. Dame is sitting in Portland without an excuse anymore. The excuse for the last 4 years is they was over the cap. They couldn't get me nobody. They don't have an excuse now. They have cap space, and they're not necessarily doing with it what Dame would want them to. And for myself, I have big expectations for the Blazers because of this circumstance, just like Dame did. So when I saw that $60 million 4 year for Nurkic, I was like, oh no. Oh, hell no. Hell no. That was my exact response. And I take it Dame's was the exact same thing. So I think he saw what I saw and felt the exact same way I did. That was it. It's not that Nurkic can't play. Like as I said, he's been losing with Nurkic. You got to upgrade the situation. You got to bring him something that ain't there already. And don't get it twisted. Nurkic is his boy. I don't think they have bad energy or nothing. I'm pretty sure he's happy Nurkic got paid, and I'm sure he's happy Nurkic is still with the Blazers. But I think he would much rather an upgrade at that position for the basketball floor. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously. And like I said, I really like the draft pick. He could have been Shaedon Sharpe. He could have been any one of those players. It's not specific to him. But the timeline, man. You got Dame Lillard in a win-now situation at 33, 34 years old. Why are you bringing in a kid? Okay, fine. You want to bring in a kid? That's great. Trade Dame. That's basically where we're at. As I always tell every organization I refer to about, you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out as it pertains to winning now or rebuilding. You can't do that and expect to keep a happy superstar. You can't do it, especially if that superstar is aging. That doesn't work. You got to either give them win now talent or get them to a situation that can allow them to be win now. Now, Portland has had ample opportunities to put themselves in positions to rearrange their talent level so that Dame could have his proper farewell. But they opted to fix their books instead of fixing his timeline. Right? And they had him drag along for the ride. The only reason why he should have been agreeing to drag along for the ride is if as soon as you get out of that situation, you bring me the best possible team. That should be the only plan. You have me dealing with this nonsense. Either you bring me the best possible team or you send me to the best possible team. That should have been the only plan Portland had for Dame. He get all the way to this point. He's sitting up here, he's sitting at the draft booth, hoping to get the lottery pick. It goes 7. Okay, fine. We get a 7 pick. Maybe we didn't get lucky. But you still say we got the cap space. We got trade pieces. It's going well. We can do something. Trade for Jeremy Grant. Okay, fine. Not in love with his contract, but I love the piece. What's next? Are you bringing me Beal? We got Durant. We got Ayton. Donovan Mitchell. Maybe you want to swirl back around and get Ben Simmons. You guys like Ben Simmons. Can we get Ben? Can we at least get Ben? Nurkic, huh? 60 mil, 4 years Nurkic. That's what you decide to do when you finally get out from under all this hell. You pay Nurkic and then you pay my backup point guard $100 million. Okay, let me get the hell out of here. Because if you was going to give my backup point guard $100 million, what am I doing here? See what I'm saying? Any logical person is going to think that in that situation. And don't get it twisted. Anthony Simons deserved the money. And he also deserves a starting spot at the point guard position. Let's keep it a buck. As soon as Dame went down with that groin, that was his spot. It was his. He took it. When you putting up 25 points, 11 assists, and you're in your early 20s, and a team wants to give you $100 million for 4 years, that's your spot. And see, Portland, I guess Portland didn't really understand that. When you do something like that, you're essentially telling Dame bye-bye. That's not what should have happened. Truthfully, what should have happened was either you're going to go forward with Simons and Sharpe as your core for the future, or you trade those two and get Dame something that he can win a championship right now with. That's what you should have did. That's what they should have did. And don't get it twisted, I'm not up for trading Shaedon Sharpe. In fact, I'm probably going to trade Dame. The type of GM I am, I'm moving Dame. But they just kind of stayed on that kind of here, kind of not. As to where Washington, they were preparing for Bradley to stay. Listen, we going to get Kuzma, we going to get KCP, we're going to go get some draft picks. We're going to make sure we keep some guys that we like. We're going to make sure we bring in other pieces on top of that. You know, we brought you Porzingis. Pieces that he can work with. That way, if he looks at Washington and says, okay, do I want to sign a Supermax? Where are they headed? They have their picks. We got some win now talent. We got some youngsters. The balance is good. Unseld Jr., the coach, solid. I signed a 5-year deal here. First 3 years may be rough. The last 2 years, we're going to be loaded. Because the team is going in the right direction and making good decisions. And all is well with the timeline. The Blazers, unfortunately, it appears early on with the moves that they've made, and there's still more moves to make, but it looks like they don't really know how to situate the timeline. They don't know how to find a decision to land on and stick with it. That's what it seemed like to me. You want to keep Nurkic, you want to keep Dame, but you also want to have Simons, you want to have Shade, and you got Grant in between two timelines there. He's somewhere in between that. And you got the kids like the youngsters that you got back on the back of the bench. They're somewhere in between. You know, some of the kids that you got from the G League last year. I don't remember. I think it's Wilford or something like that. He's really good, but he's a fresh youngster. He's part of the Shaden Sharp, Simons crew. It's like, you guys are not Golden State. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say to Portland. You're not Golden State. So having a mixture of the kids and the old guys, it don't mesh. It don't hit the same way for y'all. It ain't the same mesh. Y'all need to stick to a timeline, in my humble opinion. And it should probably be the youth timeline. Once you decide to go the route of bringing in young players that have prominent roles on your team, that's when you know there's no more reasons to pay Nurkic and there's no reason to keep Dame. We got to let those win now players go and turn the team over to all these youngsters and use that cap space to help us build something that makes sense for everybody's timeline. This is why teams don't win championships, man. This is why it's only been like a handful of teams that's won championships in the history of the league. It's not because the Lakers and the Celtics have dominated so much. It's because when you look throughout the history of the league, you see a bunch of transactions that really don't help themselves a lot of times. These GMs and these owners be okaying stuff that hurts themselves on a very, very consistent basis. Very consistent. Stuff that they do overnight that sets them back for 7 years. And that's why you see such ineptitude up and down the league. I've been seeing it my whole life. 37 years of watching this, basically. And you just watch these teams and they just be so clueless, and then they blame players. It's like, yeah, the players are at fault, but no, not really. Because if you would have did this, and this right in the summertime, you would have had that player to help, you would have had that player to help, and you would have had that player to help. And your situation wouldn't have been as bad. People wouldn't have been as unhappy because they wouldn't have been losing. That's the problem. Like, good, as far as I can tell, that's a problem good 70% of the time. About 70% of the time. There'd be roster issues. And in those front offices sometimes, not all the time, but a good number of times, we'll pass that blame. It's the player's fault. It's not us. The star couldn't lead. Nah, that star wasn't a problem. You signed that guy to some bull crap 3 years ago, and you haven't recovered from it. That's what really went wrong. He looks bad because you didn't have enough players on the floor to make him look better. Why? Because of that transaction we're referring to. So that's why it's important to everybody. Owners, players, everybody have at least a understanding, a basic understanding of how this kind of stuff works. You know what I mean? So that they can stop making these decisions, ruining their paths, ruining these players' opportunities, ruining their teams, etc. I think Portland is in a situation where their situation is very salvageable. There's nothing wrong with their situation at all. They just have to make a commitment to a timeline and stick to it. That's all. When you make a commitment, you follow through with that commitment and you live with the results. But when you teeter that line between in and out, you're going to definitely get the results of the failure. You're 100% going to fail. In basketball, that is. For sure. You got to pick something and stick to it as it pertains to their roster and timeline. So, with that being said, Dame is definitely tired of them. I think that part has been clearly pointed out at this point. And now, we'll see if the Portland Trailblazers will react to what it is that he's saying by either making a deal that makes him happy or sending him somewhere that allow him to win. And just like Kevin Durant's situation, Dame's going to run into the same thing. Teams aren't going to want to necessarily trade for him because, well, they will want to trade for him, but they're not going to want to give up what he's worth because it's going to be a situation where they have to try to keep as much as they can so that they can bring him to a win-now situation. So that's when it's going to be really difficult because Dame is going to require a haul similar to Rudy Gobert, if not bigger. Probably bigger. So when you consider all that has to go out in order to bring Dame in, Dame may be going to a situation that ain't much better than the one he's in. So that's what Kevin Durant's running into. The field is dried up as I predicted. And the only thing that really makes sense for the Nets is something that they don't necessarily want to do, which is trade him to the Lakers for AD. And from what I'm understanding, the Lakers haven't really involved AD in any trade discussions, which shocked the hell out of me. But that's a conversation for another video. But all in all, I just feel like Dame is going to have to really give some consideration to where he wants to go. And I think it's tough because usually in situations like this, you already want to have that in mind. You want to already have that destination in place in mind. But I just don't think he was preparing to leave. I think he thought Portland was going to make better decisions. I think he thought they were going to make more impactful moves because they don't have no excuse no more at all. And I just don't think they did nothing to make you feel like they're trying to win. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. So I don't know. I think sometimes organizations also fall in love with familiarity. We figure we've had a guy for a couple years. We know him. We've developed him. So we just want to keep him. He may cost a little more than we want him to, but he's our guy. So it's easier that way. I think that's kind of what happened there with Nurkic, honestly. It's like, yeah, it's our guy. We like him. We know what he can do. He's great for our locker room. He's good for our chemistry. Let's just give him what he's deserving of and keep it pushing. And while that makes sense on some fronts, on the ones that count, it does not. That's the problem. So maybe he comes out and has a great year. Hell, I'm not ruling that out. He's a really good player. That's not even part of the problem. It's just that what are you doing with $60 million of your cap? That's all it is. What are you doing with $160 million of your cap? You consider Simon's contract as well. Did they even consult Dame with any of this? That's another thing. Like, are you guys involving Dame in these conversations, letting him know what's popping? Because this is the time you do that. After what y'all just went through, and now you're out free with cap space for the first time, yeah, he needs to be consulted. Because at least if there's something like this happens where you can't get nothing but Nurkic, at least he's involved in the situation so he knows what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying? That part is important. Especially for guys at this stage where they don't have a whole lot of time left. They need to know what you see. Can you bring me what I need? If not, do I need to be getting up out of here? And obviously, it's not going to benefit Portland to tell him, yes, you need to leave. But honestly, if they're being real with themselves, it probably benefits them to move on from him for their timeline so they can get the cap space that he would provide in his absence. Because they could use that too. But here's the problem. And I'm sure you guys already know this. Portland's not making good decisions. So if they do embark on a rebuild, I'm not certain that rebuild's going to go well based on what we're seeing here. Some teams and some GMs know how to retool, but don't necessarily know how to build. They know how to move pieces around, but they don't have a vision for a basketball team. Now, I'm not saying Portland's GM has that or doesn't have that. I'm just saying that this can be a problem sometimes. And where guys know how to get guys here, I can land that guy because I know how to negotiate the deal. I know how to put the numbers together. I know how to that part. But when it's time to put the team together, they're not really, maybe that's not their thing. I don't know. But the evidence shows that something like that could be going on there. Whatever the case may be, I don't imagine it's easy to find great GMs. I don't imagine this is the easiest thing to find experts in, you know what I'm saying? But it's such a science, man. It's such a science. I don't pretend to understand it fully myself. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm a cap expert or even a cap person. I don't know a whole lot. But I understand the importance of knowing. And when the GMs and the owners and everybody else don't know, you get this. That's the point. You get this. So, yeah, I think Dame's out of there. I think he's probably going to end up somewhere that we're not expecting him to go. Probably a team that's not even looked at as really good because they're going to have the pieces to trade for him. And I don't know if he has a trade clause or whatever. I don't know what places he would be interested in going to. But you consider a team like Miami, that makes a lot of sense to me right now. When you consider they could have traded for Kevin Durant, but probably weren't able to due to the Bam Adebayo, Ben Simmons situation. Maybe they would take that same package or a similar package and offer it to Portland for Dame. I don't think it could hurt at all. At all. When you consider what the Miami Heat need and what Dame does. That's a perfect fit, believe it or not. So that's one option. Obviously, you're looking at Brooklyn. They don't want to quit. They're not ready to give up. He was willing to play with Ben Simmons in Portland. I don't know why he wouldn't be willing to play with Ben Simmons in Brooklyn. That, too, makes sense, given the fact that they're going to have the cap space and refuse to give up their timeline for win now. So that's a spot. I don't think it's a great one, given their circumstance. I wouldn't want to replace KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. If I'm Dame, that's not what I'm signing up for. But, like I said, if push comes to shove, that's a spot. He'll have other suitors. Teams like the Pelicans will probably put together a package or something, try to reunite him with CJ. I can see something like that happening. But I would advise them to not do a damn thing. Just keep that team and let it hatch. I wouldn't do nothing to that Pelican roster at all, including trading Brandon Ingram for KD. Absolutely not. I'm not doing that. Pelicans should stand pat. But yeah, as far as the Portland Trailblazers, man, where Dame going, I don't know, man. I don't know, but I know one thing. He ain't gonna be there for much longer. I can tell you that. Sacramento sneaky. That's sneaky. Swap him for Fox. That's sneaky. And the reason why I say Sacramento is sneaky, because even though I'm sure he has absolutely zero interest in joining the Sacramento Kings, I do think they're a team on the rise who could make a trade for him and still have pieces that he could work with. I don't know if it's that much better than the situation he's in, but I'll tell you this. Keegan Murray is a game changer. And people are going to find that out very fast. Sacramento ain't the old Sacramento at all. So for someone who has a vision, if you can envision what that's about to be, you can slip in real quick and get on at the bottom level. Because I'm telling you right now, Sacramento is on the rise. And if they were to acquire a guy like Dame, they're immediately a playoff team, obviously. But that's not realistic at all. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not realistic. But when you consider what players and teams, what opportunities players just don't take because they don't want to live in certain places or because they don't have the vision of them being the solution to these problems. There have been great fits that players just didn't explore for those reasons. Like amazing fits that players just don't have a vision for because they want to play for my team, the Lakers. Or they want to play in New York or they want to play wherever. But the reality is your best basketball fit and the best asset class and the best cap situation is probably somewhere you don't want to be, like Indiana or Utah. And if you would just take their bag, you'll find out that you have a hell of a path. You know what I'm saying? But it's been so many players that just don't want to do that, and I just think they miss out. This is why you find yourself having careers that you're not pleased with. It's because of the opportunities you didn't take in places you just didn't want to give a chance. That's another reason why the NBA isn't meeting its full potential, in my opinion, in terms from team to team to team to team, is because there's a lot of bad fits, because guys want to go in places they ain't got no business being. So that's something I want to lend my voice to try to turn around a little bit to a degree. Start getting guys thinking about the fit. Because to be honest with you, once you have a certain amount of money, you can get everything you need in terms of making a place your safe haven, your castle. It don't matter where you at. You could turn Milwaukee into the best place in the world if you got enough money. So I think in this era it doesn't matter as much. I can live in Sacramento and be fine with $150 million. So I think guys should give that some consideration, man. Sunshine is wonderful. Don't get it twisted. I'm saying all this from the comfort of a summertime in LA. But at the end of the day, man, basketball fit definitely is a lucrative decision. When you have a real good fit, it will translate to other things. Simple as that. Keep basketball first, and it all falls into place. So that's what I gotta say, man. Hopefully Dame finds him a spot, man. Hopefully Portland figures out their timeline. I'm looking forward to them just allowing the new look Portland Trailblazer era to begin. I'm ready for that. I think Dame has given his whole career to this franchise, and it's gone the KG route, and now it's time for him to find his Boston. So I hope he finds that, man. Enough of this loyalty nonsense. If the teams can't keep you happy and they can't keep good talent around you, I think leaving is the way to go. Don't let these analysts, don't let these fans, don't let nobody tell you need to stay in a toxic situation just because you're making a certain amount of money. That's bull crap. That's bull crap. Because they'll flip you. If you bust your knee up, they will flip you just as quick as they drafted you. And when you leave, they're going to replace you with somebody else who they're going to guilt trip with that same bull crap. So do what you got to do within the time frame that you are in the NBA. Loyalty and business are not good bedfellows. If you want to practice loyalty, that's strong. But understand, do not expect it to be reciprocated. Not in the NBA. So that's what I got to say, man. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.